Okay, so today we're going to be talking about liberal hypocrisy. Don't worry, I will be making a video about conservative hypocrisy as well. There's obviously plenty to go around. But I just want to make a short little list about just some of the main bullet points that I find to be incredibly hypocritical coming from the liberal side of the aisle. Um, it's concerning to me that they fail to recognize the hypocrisy in many of their arguments, and I just want to point some of them out. So let's start with number one. Okay, so let's start with war. Okay, now, throughout the entire 8 years of the Bush administration, most liberals were absolutely outraged that we were fighting both in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is totally acceptable. That's a perfectly fine argument to take up. My problem is that there was a lack of outrage with Obama still fighting over there. And that bothers me because you're not supposed to be concerned about who is fighting the war. As far as the presidency is concerned, you're supposed to be concerned about who's fighting the war on the ground. And if that is your main concern, it just bothers me that there's just such a lack of protest to those wars now as compared to years ago when Bush was in office. If you were outraged then, you should be outraged now, if not even more so, because the length in which these wars are still being fought. Okay, second one, the Constitution. There is a document of convenience for you. Now, obviously, most of us treasure the Constitution, but truth be told is we mostly value it when it plays into our side of the argument. The lack of respect for the Second Amendment is rather interesting to me, coming from the liberal side, and this is coming from someone who does not own a gun. I don't enjoy guns. I don't really like having them in my presence. But if you are going to blindly follow the Constitution and all that is written in it and endowed by it, I feel as though you probably shouldn't speak of the Second Amendment as though it was a total error which needs to be corrected and can be interpreted in different ways, which it leaves very little wiggle room, in my opinion. Third, money and greed. Occupy Wall Street. Now, this bothers me because many of the people who came out and supported this were celebrities and people who had quite a bit of money. And that bothers me because, I mean, how can you protest people who are making millions? You know, I guess it's legitimate, as far as we know, on making investments and such. But you're not arguing against the lack of regulation, really. You're arguing against greed, and that these people shouldn't have that money, and that needs to be put to an end, and the monopoly and the lack of distribution of the wealth throughout the communities of America. Now that bothers me if you're sitting pretty with a rather fat wallet due to acting or singing or whatever you do. That's just celebrities in Hollywood drive me nuts when they come out and politically endorse political candidates. It is absolutely enraging to me because most of them are completely uninformed, and yet they speak as though they've been in politics their entire lives. And it just bothers me a lot, that entire argument, the whole Occupy Wall Street movement. I think it made certain points that were valuable, but overall it was just lacking direction and understanding as far as I'm concerned. And then fourth and finally, the gridlock in Congress. Okay, now let me first state that I hate the fact that John Boehner is being such an obstructionist and he lacks in ideas, and it's just overall unfortunate. But it's difficult for me to understand how you can be so thoroughly enraged by him, but yet when Nancy Pelosi became the first woman Speaker of the House when Bush was still in office, she basically made it her entire agenda to shut down his agenda, which I understand he was a poor president, but that was her agenda basically, was to actually initiate gridlock. She didn't want anything going through. That's why she was elected. In a way, that's also why Boehner was elected. This is a really disturbing trend, as we're basically electing people to lead the House just to stop the president. And I'm sure you can see why that would be a problem, because we're not getting anything done. And we won't get anything done if this trend continues. But those are just four little points why I find the liberal argument to be hypocritical at times.